Rose, breast cancer Previvor, preventive healthcare advocate, and founder of the Previvor Foundation. I get the question a lot, what is the difference between a previvor and a survivor? So a survivor, we all know, is somebody who's survived a breast cancer diagnosis. But a previvor is someone who's survived a genetic predisposition to breast cancer. So that's where we get the pre. So they are a pre-survivor, essentially. It just made sense for me to choose a surgery like this. I felt I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm probably going to be able to recover well from this surgery. I have the top doctors in the world. I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time, now here in Germany, and I just felt like it was the right time to do it. It was an intimidating decision, it was a scary decision, but ultimately it was the right one for me. My mother was diagnosed with a stage 3 breast cancer in her early 20s. Then she had a reoccurrence 20 years later and unfortunately lost her life. And after my mom lost her life, I found out that breast cancer had claimed the lives of my grandmother, my great aunt. So many women in my family had lost their lives to this disease. Even though my mother had tested negative for the breast cancer gene, because I had breast cancer on both sides of the family, I decided that I wanted to be proactive and be tested. I underwent testing. It took, I want to say, a couple of weeks to receive the results. So I was really on pins and needles waiting for that, and the results came back negative. So that was a bit of a relief for me, but I knew that it wasn't the end of the road, that I would very likely have to undergo a preventive mastectomy anyway. Just because you carry a breast cancer gene mutation doesn't necessarily mean you are going to be diagnosed with breast cancer in your lifetime. So keep that in mind. But if you are somebody who is considering mastectomy and you really don't know where to start, that is where I started my nonprofit. That's why I started it. I wanted women to have a safe space so that they could feel empowered and educated talking to their doctors about their breast reconstruction options. In the United States, we have a federal law that mandates that if you've had a mastectomy, you have access to breast reconstruction. So if you want to reconstruct your breast, either with an implant, with your own body tissues, your insurance should cover that. If you're considering undergoing IVF, maybe you have a cancer diagnosis and you're worried about your fertility for the future. There's a great organization called Chick Mission. There's so many groups out there, and I always tell people I am here for you. So if you need any help, tips, advice, slide in my DMs. I actually underwent the IVF process with something called PGT, which is pre-implantation genetic testing. So somebody who carries either breast cancer gene mutation or another rare mutation like I did can choose to go through IVF and then test their embryos and make sure that those embryos are gene-free. They don't carry this mutation. One of the sad elements is when you undergo mastectomy, you're not just removing that breast tissue, but you're actually removing the milk ducts as well, which makes it unable for you to breastfeed. So this was a very emotional process for me. Obviously, I know that breast milk is vitally important for a baby's health and development, but for me, when I made this decision, I said, it's more important that I'm alive. I can't feed my baby, period, if I'm not here. So prolonging my life, preserving my life through a mastectomy was top priority. Looking back on my experience, I don't think I would have done anything differently. Everything that went right, everything that went wrong was a learning process along the way, and I've just been afforded such a wonderful platform to be able to share my message and to make sure that my mother's passing was not in vain. I look at my daughter every day and I realize that all of this was for her. So for us, number one, starting this month in October, we are really pushing that women learned how to do a self-breast exam. We all know that during COVID, we were limited in access to healthcare, and so many women were not given the screenings that they needed and that they deserve. Mastectomies, preventive surgeries, mammograms were all deemed elective procedures, which is awful because we are now seeing an uptick in women being diagnosed with breast cancer at a later stage.